excited for the future. Excited for the future. We may have a couple of hiccups along the way, but I think we've started to build from the bottom up, and I think a year from now we'll be in a great place.
A year from now.
I like the way the offensive line has played over the last number of weeks. I'm not down on anybody in the offensive line. That's a really good front we played against. I think we could have played better, especially in pass protection. Those guys would tell you that it could have been better, even in the run blocking sometimes, for sure. I don't think it merits any drastic changes right now, other than the fact that Josh goes in there sometimes in the extra O-line. He could have a chance. Ben, I think he goes in there extra O-line. I think he'd play well if he went in there. I think we're pretty well set there. I think those guys could come in. The other guys that are working hard could come in and help us.
So, is there trouble on the horizon for the Baltimore Ravens? Are there some unforeseen problems that we don't speak about or we maybe try to mask? As you heard earlier, Eric DeCosta himself said, hey, we're going to be good in about a year. And for me, this issue is going to be this offensive line. I think that the Baltimore Ravens O-line is going to be what is the greatest downfall in the Ravens' quest for a Super Bowl this season. And then we had the press conference from John Harbaugh speaking about how he likes his guys, how he feels comfortable and everybody's playing well and everybody's doing all of these things. But then he says, hey, we could have run block better, we could have pass block better. Now, which is it? Is it that they played well or they could have done some things better? Now, as for myself and everyone else, no one expects them to be perfect. Everybody, even the greatest of players, get beat on plays. But for me, this offensive line has been an issue since the offseason. And this is something that we've all known about. This is something that a lot of us, especially myself, has voiced problems with when the Ravens decided to open up the season with this collection of guys. Now, the thing that made me do this video was a couple of weeks back. And I can't help but laugh because when I saw it, I saw red, like, yo, what are you doing? I understand you work for the team, you work for the company, it's a part of the brand. But my thing is, don't get up here and lie. I have my views, I have my beliefs on certain things, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to embellish on certain stories. And this story was printed on the Baltimore Ravens website stating that has the Baltimore Ravens offensive line become a strength of the team? Oh, shit. Are we living in the multiverse? Is this another iteration of the Baltimore Ravens that we haven't seen play?
What are you doing?
Because to me, this offensive line has not been good all season long. Now, have they made strides from the first game? Yes, they have. Have certain guys played a little bit better? They certainly have. This offensive line is not suitable for a potential three-time MVP quarterback. During the Philadelphia Eagles game, I thought that they got heavily exposed. Heavily. And looking from this picture that I got from X, you can see that from 3 guys during this game, they gave up 24 pressures from 3 guys. That's not the whole team. That is just these 3. That is what we call in the Ravens Roundup downright putrid. Pat McCarry himself gave up 9 pressures all on his own. Now, this is the guy who everyone said, hey, this is one of the Ravens' most valuable assets. He's one of our most valuable offensive linemen because he's a swing tackle. He can play all 5 positions on the field. But the question is, can he play them well? And apparently he cannot.
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
Now, I give him credit. This is the first game in like the last 8 that he has not had a holding penalty. But he is not holding up well. He is not doing his job. He's missing blocks. He's missing assignments. He is just not what I really expected that the Baltimore Ravens would use to protect Lamar Jackson. Now, Eric DeCosta had this to say.
I think across the board, we made the decision to start to build up the offensive line with young players. Unfortunately, with a salary cap league, you just can't build a team with veterans at every position.
And this is something else that had me on edge. You say, okay, with free agency, the salary cap, and all of these things going on, you cannot field a perfect team. And this is something that I truly understand. You can't have all pros, you can't have pro bowlers at every position on a team. It is just literally impossible. But what you can do is find serviceable players that can fill a void, that can do the job. Now, he said the salary cap, I wish I could have veterans here, I wish I could have veterans there. But looking at it, you can have veterans all throughout the defense. But when it comes to the offense, and once again protecting your most valuable asset, this is a totally different story. You can't have veterans all through your offensive line. You couldn't bring anybody in because you like the guys that you had, but defensively, you had no problem with bringing back Chris Board. You had no problem with bringing back Christian Welch. You had no problem with bringing back Arthur Millette. You had no issue with bringing back Kyle Van Noy. You had no issue with bringing back Brent Urban. And I understand Kyle Van Noy is in a different category, but once again, you had no issue with bringing back veteran players. And then on top of that, you trade for Tre'Davious White, and then on top of that, you pick up a Desmond King. And I'm not knocking anybody that you brought in, even though some of them were a little questionable. But my point is, you say that you cannot bring these veterans in and have an all-veteran team, but once again, defensively, it is appropriate. It is all right to have these guys defensively. And you didn't learn your lesson from putting all these assets into the defense and the defense struggling for the majority of the season. But here we go. I'm cool with Patrick McCarry. I'm cool with Andrew Voorhees, who's never played it down in the NFL, but you thought he was going to come in fresh off an injury with no NFL experience, no practice experience, no game time experience, and thought that he was going to come in and be a serviceable level guard. That to me is just amazing, and you knew this. That's why you came out and said, I think a year from now, we're going to be in a great position. But the problem is the Ravens are in a Super Bowl window right now. We just came off an AFC Championship game. So logically, the next step would be Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that we can't make the Super Bowl this year. I'm not saying we aren't going to make the Super Bowl this year, but you are making it extremely hard on yourself. Then after 3 games, you said, you know what, Andrew Voorhees, I'm moving Pat McCarry over there. I'm going to have the rookie man in the right tackle position. He's played well. He is one of the few, and when I say few, I mean possibly 2 draft picks that Eric DeCosta has brought to this team and developed nicely. It might be a 3rd. But overall, we have not been able to develop offensive linemen. This is not a strength of yours. Go out there and sign one. Then we're not even really going to discuss the Daniel Faalele thing because it is apparent. It is evident every game. He's standing there looking lost. He's not touching anybody. And there are times where I honestly think that he does not know his assignment. He doesn't know what the play call is. Now, he'll have a good play here and there, and everyone will hype that up. Oh, look at him run downfield. Look at him do this block. Look at him fall forward. The man is 6'8", 390 pounds. If you can't just stand in someone's way and hinder him from getting to the quarterback, I don't know what you can do. You are a massive human being. You are massive, pause. And you're telling me with these smaller defensive linemen, these linebackers, you can't get your hands on them and stop them or slow them down at the very least. So to me, from the beginning of the season until now, the offensive line has been the downfall to this team. And it may not get better. And yes, there have been spurts where the offensive line has looked pretty good. But of course, if you look deeper into it, you can see they came against teams that did not have a strong defensive line. Now, when we face teams with good defensive lines, the offensive line struggle. A lot of those games we did win, but they struggled, and it all had to do with the magic of Lamar Jackson. You can look at the Philadelphia Eagles game. Lamar was running for his life, still able to escape the pocket, make some throws down the field, but unfortunately, he cannot do this each and every game. And then we jump on Lamar when he misses some passes because he's worried about who's going to hit him next. So when it comes playoff time, we're not going to see the Dallases. We're not going to see the teams that have these weak defensive fronts that can't rush the quarterback. We're going to see the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to see the Buffalo Bills again, this time with a healthy complement of players. So that game could turn out a little bit different. We are going to see the Kansas City Chiefs once again. And we saw what they did to this offensive line in game 1. Now, yes, they have a little more experience, but what's going to be different? Who's going to block Chris Jones? Who's going to stop Karlaftis? Like, what player are we going to have that's going to slow down TJ Watt? The playoffs are a different animal, and these are the times where we need the offensive line to step up. 2012, we had offensive line issues. Luckily, we were able to make an adjustment right before the playoffs that helped us win the Super Bowl. But unlike that time, John Harbaugh is sticking with what he has. He feels no need to make any changes. He feels no need to upgrade any positions. I don't know what's going on with him and Ben Cleveland, even though you said he plays well when he comes in. And anybody, everybody, nobody, somebody has to be an upgrade over Daniel Faalele. And the team is not going to be happy. John Harbaugh is not going to be happy. Eric DeCosta won't be happy until they go out here and get Lamar hurt. And then where will we be as a franchise? It just amazes me to this day how you can be so stubborn, how you can be so ego-driven to believe that the product that you're seeing out there on this field is actually a good product. Pass blocking, suspect. Run blocking, suspect. Pete, listen, people are going to look at the numbers and say Lamar is passing out of his mind. Derrick Henry is second in the league in rushing. But how much of that has to do with the greatness of those two and not the greatness of this offensive line? I'm not ready to wait until next year. I want my Super Bowl this year. Am I spoiled? Yes, because we are long overdue from winning a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. It is just very unfortunate that this head coach and this general manager cannot see that their greatest asset is the one that needs to be protected the most.
Nah, man, I'm cool.